An Idaho judge decided to give a man who pleaded guilty to rape probation as opposed to jail time as long as he promised to abide by certain rules. And one of those certain rules has to do with avoiding sex before marriage. Yeah. So in Idaho, technically, premarital sex is still considered illegal, and that's because they haven't updated their laws. They're still from, the 1400s or something. But either way, this judge decided, okay, well, I'm just going to make sure that you don't have premarital sex. If you break this rule, if we find that you break this rule, you could serve 15 years in prison. Let me give you the details. So the judge is Judge Randy J Stoker in Idaho, and Stoker said in court that he could have sentenced Cody D. Herrera to life in prison for raping the 14-year-old girl in 2015. Herrera was actually 17 years old at that time. Instead, he sent the 20-year-old, he's 20 now, to a treatment program run by the Idaho prison system. If Herrera completes the program within a year, he will be placed on probation. Okay, so he'll be placed on probation and then no sex before marriage. He says the following, the judge. I will tell you, sir, that if you are ever placed on probation to this court, a condition of that probation will be you will not have sexual relations with anyone other than who you are married to if you're married, period. Now, Twin Falls prosecuting attorney Grant P. Loeb said the sex offender's compliance with the no-sex rule would be tested via polygraph. So he made that statement to make it extremely clear. It's not like we're going to spy on this guy and, try to figure out if he's having sex that way, but we will do polygraphs and we'll figure it out that way. So there's so many different issues in this story. Issue number one is the sentence and this idea of morality being forced upon individuals. Of course, another issue is the fact that he pleaded guilty to rape, and in this case, it seems as though he can completely avoid jail time, and is that okay?
So, on you go.
No, sorry.
I'm trying to find my words as well, because I was reading this story and I was waiting for down the bottom to be like an appeal or something like that, and this wasn't true. No, it's 100% true. This is one of the most despicable stories I think I've read in a while. The judge in this example, as I'm sure you were going to mention, and as we get through, some of the other quotes was like he was blaming social media as a means for this action taking place, and he's quoting his own time. Those guys like back in my day, we never had any of that Instagram and that thing that happened, right? Back then, let me guess, the excuses for rape back then, Judge Stoker, was maybe like miniskirts, was that or maybe makeup, or maybe girls were just asking for it, because he's the same imbecile that gives those sort of excuses to try and deflect away and use his own point of view to try and sculpt his own view on the law.
Yeah, it's really interesting because he blames social media because he claims that the internet is where these meetings are initiated, and then it leads to people getting hurt. But it seems like he's using his own religious morality as punishment for someone, as opposed to what should, in my opinion, legally happen. If someone has pleaded guilty to rape, then I feel like jail time is a more acceptable punishment as opposed to putting someone, in a polygraph test situation to find out whether or not they're having sex. Now, let me give you the statements that Francis just mentioned right now. I think they're important. So the judge also said during the case, I have seen dozens, if not hundreds of sex cases since I've been on this bench. Our society has come to a point, I don't even know how to explain it, I'm 66 years of age. When I was 19 years of age, the sexual proclivities of young people wasn't anything like I see today. I think it is a direct consequence of the social media system that we have in this country. I love a social media system, kind of like a political system. It's got its own constitution, and then there's been some legalized bribery thrown in, and you have some, bad actors bribing the CEOs of social media platforms to initiate questionable meetings with young women. That statement was just weird to me. But it's a very strange case, and you got to keep in mind that it is an older judge in a very conservative state where they obviously haven't updated some of their laws. So
I love when they talk about we are a more promiscuous generation, as if all the stuff that we know, we've read about, we've seen throughout history didn't happen. I just think it's amazing that we have found yet one more thing to blame rape on except the rapist. And so when I hear, and I have to speak on this, and I know I live on a soapbox because I've been raped, and it's just amazing that this is the stuff that continues to contribute to make people who are raped, and I don't speak specifically to women, because transgender people, men get raped, women get raped, children get raped, and we keep creating these ideas that we keep generating these ideas that make victims feel like it is their fault, that this girl called this rape upon herself because of her promiscuity or her engagement. And then he also judged the boy for how many sex partners he's had, which is his business. If he wants to have sex with 37 people, 400 people, that's his business. What he does not have the right to do is rape people. And so I just think it's just this continuous rape culture that we are always getting showered with, as opposed to accountability and telling people, you can't go around raping people. It's wrong, it's against the law, and there should be consequences.
So whenever we talk about or bring up that phrase, rape culture, I think it rubs certain people the wrong way, because they think that it's limited to rape that occurs on college campuses and that's it. But it has to do with so many different factors in society today. The fact that our lawmakers don't take the issue of rape in prison seriously. Our lawmakers don't take the issue of rape within the military seriously. That affects men considerably. They don't take the issue of rape seriously when it comes to sentencing in some states, including the state of California, where the whole Brock Turner story broke, right? And so there is a two-tier justice system. There is a double standard when it comes to certain cases like this. But we have to ensure that we protect people. That's the whole role of the government, protecting the public. And if you have certain judges using their religious morality as opposed to what the best thing is for society, then you're going to have a problem, and you're going to embolden people to victimize others again and again. And
I feel like the term culture, it's broader as well in the term that you got to make the victims feel comfortable about speaking out. It's one of the most underreported assaults in society today, and one of the most under-prosecuted. I mean, you just mentioned that there's things like we're just recently lifting the statute of limitations to make sure, and that's because of like notorious examples in the Cosby case, so that we can go back and make sure that victims are not victimized further because something happened many years ago. And you hit the nail on the head, Ida. It's because there is so many excuses put out there to try and just deflect away. And most of them in this example, this judge has these preconceived notions about what goes on between men and women, because he's specifically referencing to that and tries to deflect away from, no, predators were there when you were younger.
That's right.
Now, social media does play a part that these predators can find victims a little bit more easily, but they were always there. And he's just into this, but no, back in my day, these things happened. And there's one quote I wanted to get to that he mentioned here that was just so sickening to me. I can't change morality. People are going to do what they're going to do. No, your job is to try and minimize the risk in your state of idiots like this going out and doing what they just did again. That is your job. That's what you took an oath to do. But you're not doing that. You're going to give him a pass, a slap on the wrist and say, no, just don't be having sex before you're married. What kind of punishment is that? It's absolutely absurd to me.
And thank God for social media, but because of social media, some people do have a voice, and some stories are getting out there, and there are these camera phones that are videotaping things, because back in his old ass days, that women were getting raped and men were getting raped and children were getting raped, and they did not have a voice and did not have the opportunity to get their stories out there. So while he thinks that social media is the devil, for some people it actually is the light.
Yeah, one other thing I wanted to bring up. So he brings up the fact that, well, at least he perceives society to be more promiscuous these days. That's actually not the case. So various surveys have indicated that young people, millennials, have had less partners than generations before them. They waited a little longer to engage in sexual activity. Now, these are based on self-reporting, and self-reporting, of course, is a flawed methodology, but it's an interesting look at what's really happening in people's personal lives. I think what scares him and scares a lot of conservatives is that with the internet and social media, now you have more transparency with about various issues, including people's sexual activity. And also, he kept berating this guy for watching porn. Can we just get back to the real issue here? The real issue is not porn. It's the fact that he forced a 14-year-old to have sex with him when he was 17, and he pleaded guilty to it, okay? So there needs to be a proper punishment, not this ridiculous rant about morality today.
Are you sick of the mainstream media? Then I got good news for you. We're going to hire some investigative reporters, and we're going to go house. We're actually going to investigate what's happening in this country and stand up for you guys. Help us do it. Go to tytnetwork.com/go. If everybody watching this video just gives a little bit of money, we'd have plenty to hire those investigative teams and unleash them on the country.